Linoleum might get a bad reputation because you see it on the floor of your grandmother's kitchen, but it was perhaps the most used type of flooring material aboard Titanic. She didn't have marble tiles or carpet everywhere in first class. Titanic needed time-tested and sturdy materials to allow hundreds of shoes to walk aboard her during the course of her life. Linoleum was already a favorite of the Edwardians by 1912, and it was commonplace. But there was a difference in quality and type. Titanic had tons of linoleum. Floors, the tabletops, she even had, heck, probably still does, a couple of rolls of linoleum in her cargo hold. So let's learn all about a product that might be under your feet right now.
Guess what was invented in 1860? That's right, you got it. It's linoleum. Sir Frederick Walton from Halifax, West Yorkshire, was trying to combine linseed oil, cork, and some other all-natural dyes to replace rubber when he stumbled upon a rather useful floor. It was all natural, so you could actually eat it, but you're not gonna like it, which is why he didn't market it as food. He patented it in 1863 and he called it linoleum. It was originally intended to be a covering for battleship decks, but he realized that this new miracle product was actually durable, non-flammable, easy to maintain, cheap to manufacture, and therefore very affordable to the general public. Walton quickly formed the Linoleum Manufacturing Company and by 1869 was exporting it to the Americas and continental Europe. While on his patenting rampage, he also patented a method of embossing a pattern onto linoleum sheets called lincrusta. And this was used in a few of Titanic's period cabins, as well as some of the earlier ships, including Cunard's early liners from the 1870s and 80s, and of course, my favorite, the Atlantic. Walton was now the king of the flooring domain, and by the 1870s his powers had become so great, and he partnered up with American carpet manufacturers to begin the American Linoleum Company, and they founded the quaint little village of Linoleumville, New York. Yes, Walton surely had the Victorian world under his thumb. I was disappointed to find out that my countertops were made of linoleum. I guess I took them for granted.
Before the advent of this crazy linoleum product, the only floor coverings for homes or buildings, or for ships for that matter, were wood or tiles. The choice to have wood on ocean liners wasn't just a nod to the old sailing ships. The wood planks helped to insulate the decks below and prevented condensation from forming, ruining all the nice accommodations and fittings in the passenger rooms. The Board of Trade, the British government department concerned with regulating and protecting shipping, had to make sure that passenger ship decking and planking were totally up to standard. They would only allow certain materials, usually pitch pine wood, to be used as protective covering on decks. But inside passenger areas, the wood deck wasn't always the prettiest to look at. Harland and Wolff did sometimes just keep a plain wood deck as the floor and throw in some fancy paneling, but they got away with putting carpeting or wood parquet flooring on top of it, at least in first class. Not the most comfortable, but it worked. This didn't work in areas that were often wet, such as the bathrooms. In these rooms, cement was poured first and then ceramic tile laid down on top. This was done in Titanic's public bathrooms and galleys, but for the most part, the flooring of choice was the wooden decking in most of the passenger accommodations due to its robust and trusted qualities.
That is, until an invention came around to replace it, and no, it wasn't linoleum, it was called litisilo. Made by a company called Harding, litisilo was a plastic mass which made for a solid, resilient deck covering. Somewhat flexible, litisilo could expand and contract along with the steel deck plates, a benefit over concrete, which would crack and crumble while the ship moved and bent at sea. Furthermore, it was considered fireproof, rat-proof, insect-proof, weatherproof, soundproof, waterproof, infection-proof. Wait, what? I'm not sure that's accurate. It was laid on the steel decks over a bituminous solution to protect the steel and help with bonding, along with some clips riveted down to hold the litisilo in place. It was applied in a sort of viscous fluid form, much like cement or mortar, and when dry, a process which took between 24 to 72 hours depending on the time of year, was similar to cement in appearance. Litisilo came in multiple colors and was often applied in 2 layers. Titanic's litisilo was applied as such, with a thinner pinkish red top layer and a thicker gray bottom layer. The top layer was sometimes left bare in third third class and crew areas, but usually lino tiles or carpet was laid over the Litasilo. It had all the same properties as decking, but was faster to install with very little upkeep compared to decking, which required occasional replacing and recaulking. Unfortunately, it was eventually discovered that Litasilo had one big disadvantage, well, a couple. By 1912, shipbuilders found the material would decompose when it became wet, waterproof, which released magnesium chloride from the compound. On vessels older than a decade, the steel deck plates below the decomposing Litasilo could corrode from the magnesium chloride, and if the problem worsened, the ship's very integrity could be threatened. It was too late for Olympic and Titanic, of course, but Britannic switched to a Litasilo alternative called Vichy, which would fix the problem. A version of Litasilo still exists, however, and ships today still use it, hopefully without the magnesium chloride. And perhaps there's still something to be said for Litasilo's water resistance, as large chunks of the stuff, with its gray and red layers, can still be seen on the wreck today, often with the lino tiles still clinging on.
Speaking of that horrendous linoleum flooring, the tiles that rested above the two Litasilo layers varied in pattern and style amongst the numerous first, second, and third class rooms and companionways, as well as some select crew areas. The most common of these was the fleur-de-lis, or barbed cross design, which was used extensively throughout second class, third class, and some crew areas. This pattern alternated between a red and cream and green and cream combination, in some cases with a border. It heavily featured in second class due to its use in all companionways, including the entrances, corridors, and staircases, as well as most cabins. These tiles can be found in abundance at the wreck site due to the violent descent of the stern, where a majority of second class was located. It does also appear as though this design was incredibly popular within Harland and Wolff, and in turn White Star, as well as various other shipping lines.
Perhaps the most famous, thanks to being in the movie, is the star pattern found on the ground staircase. Black and white, made up of 25 individual pieces, and coming in at 18 by 18 inches square, they are as impressive as subtle and stylish in the entranceways of first class. It's a classic European design. It can even be found in Renaissance works in the Louvre Museum in France. The style would be on boat deck to sea deck on both round staircases and surrounded by white, plain, large linen tiles in black trim.
The second class dining saloon tile is a little like the state of global affairs right now. Kinda hard to describe. The pattern consisted of a small recessed square within a larger diamond shape with the corners folded inwards, this pattern being repeated and arranged in inverted colours, which is spelt with a U because that's the correct and proper spelling, as we are in fact talking about a British vessel here, thank you very much. And was utilised in second class on a handful of other liners, with examples of them even being used on the walls.
Called inlaid turkey pattern, the first class dining saloon tile was the largest expanse of tilework in the ship, and the biggest room at sea at the time. It's a very complicated pattern of gold, blue and red, made from 10 or 11 individual pieces, all different in shape. This pattern was perhaps designed to complement the Tekken carpet in the reception room forward. This tile has been used on other Harland and Wolff ships, including Nomadic, and tile from the wreck has been recovered. It should be mentioned that myth surrounds Titanic's dining saloon, that it had carpet, but there is no solid evidence for that. It seems this is a case of Titanicking Titanic, making it the most luxurious ship ever, and giving Titanic extra amenities such as a carpeted dining room, when Olympic never received any type of carpet in this room ever during a career.
Welcome to Minecraft. I'm in the second class smoking room. God, where do we even begin? A cream coloured tile with a thick black square of fairly equal proportion within, with another cream square within that one, scribbled all over by what looks like incredibly pixelated diagonal lines. The Edwardians sometimes have bizarre tastes because they use this one a lot. It helps when you put a lot of furniture on top of it to hide it.
Octagon with dots and octagon center, the first class corridor tile. These were found in all first class companionways and had a border trim of black and white.
The palm court checkerboard pattern was a classical European design dating back to ancient Rome. It complemented the surrounding style of the veranda with its large black and cream tiles.
The Harland and Wolff flower. This linen tile is famous for being in the first class smoke room in a striking red and blue color. It was also used in the drawing offices of Harland and Wolff and on Olympic, where they used lighter colors of grey and tan. Often these tiles are sold claiming to be extras, intended for Titanic. While the wrong color, they are still produced by Howell and Wolff and were probably in their offices, so they're just as cool to buy.
Gymnasium had a simple octagon with green dot or square design. It is yet another classic tile pattern used on many other liners.
Square and border, private bath. It's a cute little simple tile made of 3 pieces. It's placed on top of cement because it could often get wet, and they were alternating orange and tan or beige. Interesting choices in it.
The clover and star pattern was used in 2 differing colour combinations and was laid in the cooling room of the Turkish bath complex and the first-class elevator cabs. We suspect it was also laid in the inquiry office. The Turkish bath design was of a calming grey and blue combination, whilst a glaring red and blue was used in the lift cabs to match with their distinctive empire styling.
Parquet basket weave fir wood tiles are the last bits of lino we know of on Titanic. These were exclusively used in the sitting rooms of the millionaires' suites and were mostly covered by large area rugs. Later on, in Olympic, workers removed all the wall-to-wall carpeting in the cabins and laid down a similar tile. There's a few other patterns of lino tiles worth talking about that weren't on Titanic. Britannic was planned to have unique lino tiles in the ground staircase, in the first-class smokeroom, and a matching corridor tile, but Britannic sank, obviously.
Those resourceful chaps at Harlan and Wolff decided to put those materials, saved from the sinking before she went down, to good use on board the Olympic. When the Olympic returned from her war service, they realized that a lot of her floors were highly damaged from all those soldiers walking and mulling about, so they needed to replace them. Well, they used those tiles and they stuck them on the Olympic. Since a lot of the furniture intended for Britannic was eventually put on the Olympic, it makes sense that the tiles would follow as well. It's just the cheaper and economical way of doing things. It's unfortunate for the Britannic, but very lucky for the Olympic, and exciting for you guys because you're going to get to see those in the upcoming Britannic Patroness of the Mediterranean. And it seems that some of those unique green tiles ended up in my collection and may be useful for the production of our project. I'm just missing the octagonal part in the center and the squares on the corner.
We know most of the information about Titanic styles thanks to artifacts. Some recovered from the wreck, some from Olympic in the hands of collectors. If you go to one of the RMST artifacts exhibits, you can even see them up close. If you are lucky, you can buy some tiles from Olympic. The fleur-de-lis range in price depending on their quality and color. Green, poor quality ones can be around $200 US, and red, perfect condition tiles can be more than $500 US, but make sure you get a certificate of authenticity. But there is one other option. You can get a replica tile. You can buy a replica fleur-de-lis from our website, 3D printed, full size in red or green. They even interlock together. It comes in a set of 4, and since they were 6 inches square or 9 inches square with the border, it makes a very nice display piece on your wall. Check out all the details on Titanic Honor and Glory's shop page.
And there you have it. All the pieces come together for a great lesson in design. Now give a little more love to those old floors next time. On behalf of all of us at Titanic University and Titanic Honor and Glory, I'm Matthew DeWinkler. Thanks for watching and learning.